We are pleased to have with us this evening our Belton High School Marine Corps Junior ROTC Student Showcase. So now we will introduce instructor, staff, cadet commanding officer, cadet executive officers, and cadet sergeant major by the senior Marine instructor, Sergeant Major Matthew Conrad, UMC retired.
Okay, this is the indoor voice that they get in the classroom. My name is Sergeant Major Conrad, United States Marine Corps retired, and in about 2 seconds I'm going to introduce our cadet staff so that they can run the show like they're supposed to. All right, so first we have Cadet Lieutenant Colonel Scarlett Landry Williams. She's the battalion CEO for our program. And we have Cadet Sergeant Major Michaela Chargaloff. She's the senior enlisted that we have for our program. And then tonight, our executive officer, Major Summer Jones, is in the back, so you'll see her up here doing some drill stuff here in a second. So that makes up our our big threes we call them in the leadership program. And then we're also going to have currently Cadet Staff Sergeant Willis. He's going to be the one calling all the commands when they get ready to come down and do a brief showcase for you. I'm joined by my counterpart in the back. Some of you, many of you probably know him, have had students in the program. Gunnery Sergeant Jose Torres is sitting back there. You want to wave, Gunnery, so we can see you. Right, so some of you probably know him. He's the one that actually makes this whole thing work, and I just kind of do paperwork. So what I'm going to do now, for members of the board and our superintendent, I'm going to turn it over to the cadet CEO because this is a student showcase. So you don't want to hear me, you want to hear them.
Hello. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you all so much for the opportunity to showcase a program that has had such an impact on not only my life, but my peers' lives. And so more about our program is that it is a leadership education program, and so our sole focus is bringing in students and developing those characteristics that are going to improve them as a leader. And it's really important for me and for all my peers because when we have that focus on leadership, it's only going to apply to all the other programs that we're involved with at school. So some of our key characteristics are, again, building those leadership principles, creating greater citizenship and patriotism within our cadets, and then having overall skills to apply that to other things that they're focused on in their community.
Yeah, so a lot of the things that our program really does and promotes is self-discipline. It really highlights students' individual personal traits and their really natural gifts. So it really helps with really encouraging that and getting to encourage that initiative and that self-reliance and that really self-honor to be able to respect yourself so as to go out and be able to put on a favorable impression of yourself.
And so when you look at our program with a brief overview and you're looking at our students, the one way to definitely identify them is the uniforms we wear. But our program is so much more. So when we're looking at our program every week, of course we have our uniform inspections where we're allowing cadets to wear the uniform and show greater skills within discipline. So having great grooming standards, learning greater information about military history, and just overall regulations that are necessary. And then when you look more about our program, we have on our next day PT, or our physical training days. ROTC is a PE credit, which is really great for our incoming students. It's a greater initiative for them to join. But when we're looking at PT as a whole, again, it's that greater discipline. So what are our cadets getting out of PT? Well, they're coming in routine, and our goal is for them to leave with a greater active lifestyle. Something that our program definitely is going to promote is for students to live, to complete high school, have active lifestyles, and that's definitely promoted with our PT. More about our program is that we also are included in specialty teams. So we do things like marksmanship, PT competitions, drill competitions, and we have academics teams. So overall, just building those characters up, and different teams with marksmanship. It's our shooting our air rifles, which is definitely requiring our students to come in, receive greater training, and apply those principles to other things that they're involved with in high school.
Yeah, so another thing is like it also really encourages like being able to finish high school with like being able to say like you upheld like your like academic standards, and also not only just academics but also really like participating in your school, participating in your community. So it really like it really encourages community involvement. So it's like really great for just getting out, getting to know people, and it's like a really great like overall disciplinary it's like a disciplinary course, because it really helps like just get out there and be able to hold yourself, not only yourself but others accountable for their actions as well as your own. So it's really great.
And then with that being said, once again, we are so grateful to be able to showcase our program to you and involving our cadets in more of our community. If you haven't been exposed to our program, we do a bunch of different community service events. We love getting out into our community and exposing our cadets to those things. We do our football fields, we do parades, we're out at different centers with veterans, and overall just building community service. But with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our cadet staff sergeant to go ahead and lead in our cadets for their drill showcase.
Detail, hold. Order, up. Ready, run. Dress right, dress. Ready, front, cover. Round shoulder, up. Left shoulder, up. Raise it up. Order up. 15 counts up. Inspection up. Part up. Order up. Order rest.
What we'd like to do is offer an opportunity for the members of the board, if you have any questions for the staff, to give you a chance to ask those before we send them out of the way.
How long does it take with practice to get to this level of expertise?
Well, that's actually a great right here we actually have a mix of our cadets. Cadets in their first year all the way to their fourth year. For our competition teams, there's 3 levels. So we open our program up to any first years for on our team, which means they're going to be marching on our competitions with no rifles. This is our own regulation team, so these are going to be your cadets that have shown significant improvement and that will want to show up to practice. For this group, they've been practicing almost since the first day of school to get this precision with their overall team.
How many students actually go into the high school or they go to college and go to school?
So there's a bunch of different pathways for us, how we've had in the past, but we do have quite a few students that are going to go ahead and enlist after the program. Sergeant Major, did you want to include a specific number?
Sir, we had approximately 7% of our seniors last year that enlisted into the military. And then we also have some in ROTC programs. We currently have one at UT Austin who's going through the Navy ROTC program now.
A little bit about the time commitment. I know you said it's a PE credit, and then they are also involved in the community. But what's during the day or outside of the school? What is the time commitment look like for the students?
Yeah, so a lot of our specialty teams, a lot of that's like extracurricular, so a lot of that just requires a few hours just after school. But a lot of our like volunteer opportunities, they are volunteers, so it's like it's not an obligation, but it's a really great way for our cadets to really get out in our community and really get involved in their community and just see like what's around them and really just interact with people around them.
And with the time, our specialty teams practice throughout the school week. We have our color guard team, which we're both on, that practices 2 times a week for those football games and those competitions. And it's about an hour to hour and a half practice. So that's our experience.
Detail! I'll take. Huh! Right. Fix.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening and for your interest in Belton ISD. I hope you've enjoyed the demonstration by the Belton High School Marine Corps Junior ROTC. Let's give them another round of applause. The time is now 6:25 p.m. and the Belton Independent School District Board of Trustees are now convening a regular board meeting on Monday, September 16, 2024, at the Pittenger Fine Arts Center located at 400 North Wall Street in Belton, Texas. A quorum of board members is present. This meeting has been duly called, and notice of the meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. I want to welcome the members of our audience and our live stream viewers to this meeting. As the Belton ISD Board of Trustees, we are here to set goals, listen to reports from the superintendent, approve budgets, contracts, personnel appointments, and make policy for the district. This is a meeting of the Board of Trustees held in public, not a public meeting. Prior to this meeting, board members received information related to items on tonight's agenda. Agenda items may not necessarily be handled in the order listed on the notice. This meeting is open to all who wish to attend and hear the matters discussed. These proceedings are being live streamed on the district's YouTube channel and will be available for review in the days following tonight's meeting. For the video to adequately reflect the proceedings, I respectfully ask that you please refrain from talking while others are speaking and that all cell phones are on the silent mode. Please rise for a moment of silent prayer or meditation. Please remain standing as our students from James L. Burrell Elementary School lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance and honors to the Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
You may be seated.
Yeah, we can head down there. We're heading down.
The first item on the agenda this evening is recognitions. We will turn it over to our communications department to lead us off.
We will begin recognitions tonight with our student pledges. So pledgers, if y'all will come on up to the front, we're going to have you guys come and stand up here in front with the risers. Our students this evening were from James L. Burrell Elementary. They are fifth graders Jace Anderson and Eve McVeigh. Jace's favorite subject is math because it allows him to showcase his skills and express himself. Outside of school, he enjoys playing football and baseball. His friends describe him as kind, intelligent, and athletic. Eve's favorite subject is reading because books transport her to places she could never visit in real life. Outside of school, she enjoys swimming at Wildflower, and her friends affectionately describe her as bookish because she always has a book in hand. And now, please, if our Marine Corps Junior ROTC cadets would please come forward. Tonight, you saw the showcase that featured our Belton Marine Corps Junior ROTC program. Established in 2009, the program serves 137 students from Belton High School, Lake Belton High School, and the district's 4 middle schools. The curriculum focuses on citizenship, leadership, and general military subjects, promoting character and leadership development. And I know y'all's performance tonight was absolutely amazing, and I think everyone who is here with us will agree. So thank you so much for sharing your incredible program with us this evening. And the College Board has recognized 184 Belton ISD high school students as advanced placement scholars for their exceptional performance on AP exams taken last spring. Our AP courses are designed to prepare students for the college experience, and these honors, divided into 4 categories, highlight the extensive dedication and hard work of these students. In our first group tonight, we have our Belton High School AP Scholars. Our students who score a 3 or higher on 3 or more of their AP exams earn this distinction of AP Scholar. Congratulations. Our next group is our Belton High School AP Honor Scholars. Honor Scholars who achieve an average score of at least a 3.25 on all AP exams taken, along with scores of 3 or higher on 4 or more exams, earn the title of AP Scholar with honor. In our district, this distinction was earned by 20 students, including 1 from Belton NUTEC at Wascow, 9 from Belton High, and 10 from Lake Belton High. And here are our Belton High School Honor Scholars. We'll now be recognizing our Belton High School students who earned distinction of AP Scholar with distinction. Students must maintain an average score of at least 3.5 on all AP exams and earn scores of 3 or higher on 5 or more exams. This year, 56 students across the district received this honor, including 4 from Belton NUTEC at Wascow, 20 from Belton High School, and 32 from Lake Belton High School. And here we have our students from Belton High School earning AP Scholar with distinction. And now, moving for their pictures, we have our Lake Belton High School AP Scholars. Congratulations to our AP Scholars from Lake Belton High School. And now we will have our Lake Belton High School AP Honor Scholars. One more. Congratulations to our Lake Belton AP Honor Scholars. And our final group from Lake Belton High School is our AP Scholars with Distinction. Congratulations to our Lake Belton High School AP Scholars with Distinction. And moving towards the front now, we will have students from Belton NewTek at Wascow, our AP Scholars. Congratulations, NewTek Scholars. And now we'll have our Belton NewTek at Wascow AP Scholars with honor. Our honor scholars. Scholars with distinction. There we go. I love that y'all know that. That's incredible. And congratulations, guys. Exceptional. So 69 students from Belton ISD have earned national academic honors from the College Board for their outstanding performance on the preliminary scholastic aptitude test known as the PSAT. These students ranked in the top 2.5% of test takers who identified as African American, Hispanic, or Latina, Indigenous, or who attended school in a rural area or small town. Right now, we will recognize, please, at the front, our College Board recognees from Belton High School. Congratulations, Belton High School honorees. Now moving towards the front, we'll recognize our College Board honorees from Lake Belton High School. Congratulations, Lake Belton High School honorees. And now, we have the pleasure of honoring our Technology Services Department for our department showcase this evening. As part of our department showcase, we would like for them to come on up to the front. We recognize the invaluable work of our technology department. This 34-member team is the backbone of our district, ensuring each and every student and staff member has the tools to thrive in this 21st century. From managing servers, networks, and over 20,000 devices to providing essential tech support and training, their tireless efforts keep our district connected and our classrooms future ready. We are grateful to the technology department for their unwavering dedication and behind-the-scenes work that enables exceptional learning experiences every day. Congratulations, Technology Department. And we are pleased to introduce a new administrator this evening, Kathleen Kitty Corsi, the Director of Special Programs. She has been appointed to this position for Belton ISD with nearly 30 years of experience as a school psychologist. Kitty has served as the district special programs coordinator since 2020. She holds a Bachelor of Science in Psychology from Virginia Tech and a Master of Arts in Clinical and Counseling Psychology from Southern Methodist University. Congratulations, Kitty. We're so excited for you to continue with us in this role. We are also pleased to have some partner recognitions this evening. We are proud to celebrate our partnership with Mount Zion United Methodist Church in Belton. Please come on forward so that we can recognize you. Established in 1893, this historical landmark has hosted the Back to School with God event since 2010. Through the dedication of its 15-member congregation, more than 500 students have received backpacks, free haircuts, and essential ear and eye exams. Following this event, Mount Zion continues its support by providing additional supplies to Belton ISD to assist Project Heartbeat, the district's initiative focused on homeless education, awareness, and barrier elimination. The church is led by Pastor Patrick Russell. Thank you so much, Mount Zion United Methodist Church, for your support. We will conclude our recognitions. That's the end of our recognitions tonight. Thank you.
Okay, as our amazing students leave, will you please give them a round of applause along with our partners?
Okay, next on the agenda, public comments. Becca, we don't have any. All right. I'll move on to item 4. There being no public comments, we move on to reports. Dr. Golden?
Yes, so Gabby Nino is coming to the podium. Gabby's here this evening to provide us with an academic progress report, specifically looking at professional learning in Belton ISD. So Gabby, take it away.
Good evening. Every month, we are committed to talking about our academic progress with you all. And this evening, we're going to do that through the lens of the professional learning that we have rolled out and have put in place in support of our academic goals. So that is our purpose for this evening, to discuss the 24-25 professional learning plans that we have in place to support academic growth. Regardless of whether you are on our transportation team, our food services team, or one of our classroom teachers, there are beliefs that we hold true related to high-quality professional learning. You could probably apply these in the setting that you're in if you're engaging in learning. The most effective is when it is continuous and sustained, that it's collaborative with your peers, your colleagues, related and embedded within the job that you're doing, that it's informed by something, some data or evidence that says we have a need to engage in learning to become better. For us, that learning is focused on students and it's growth oriented. These beliefs around high quality professional learning are paving the path forward for us, and they're grounded in research. We do quite a bit of learning with an organization called Learning Forward, and these are standards for professional learning that guide educators all over the world, and we are committed to being a part of that learning as well. For our goal for the 24-25 school year is to ensure that high quality curriculum embedded learning happens for our teachers, for our school leaders, and that it's responsive to what our student needs show us and some of those academic needs that we've reviewed over time. We are really focusing heavily on professional learning communities this year, and I'll tell you a little bit about it throughout this presentation. And we are personalizing learning for our new to profession teachers, very much focused on professional growth and personal growth for all of them. That's our goal this school year. There's multiple ways that we are making that happen. As we've reviewed what we've seen in classrooms, what our teachers and leaders have shared with us, and what our student performance data tells us, we've really reflected on what are the foundations of learning that we all share in common. And what we rolled out to start this year is that we all have invested in professional learning around intentional planning, critical thinking, around our curriculum resources, and assessment for learning. So we can tell you with confidence, all of our teachers and leaders have had that foundational learning now. For the rest of the year, we'll continue building on those foundations, but our professional learning becomes more customized based on what our data tells us. There might be content-specific learning based on evolving needs. There may be campus-specific learning, or programs like dual language programming might have a specific learning need, even down to the individual teacher. They have identified, I have a learning need. And of course, our new to profession teachers, or our first year teachers, those learning opportunities are customized and based on some sort of data responsiveness. And finally, we cannot make professional learning happen through just one person or just one department. We have really emphasized sharing the leadership of learning this year, guided by those principles that we've discussed. But there's a strong effort to align what is the learning that our principals have, our assistant principals, our instructional coaches, our teacher leaders, and our teaching and learning team, so that there's alignment and we're sharing the learning and the leadership of that in our system. That was really about our how and design. I want to think about the participants. And if I am somebody seeking learning or I'm going to receive learning, these might be some of our access points for people. We have district-wide opportunities like you've heard of Ignite or Recharge, or our annual required training. Then if I'm an individual, I might access that customized learning through coaching at the campus level, or a mentor that I have assigned to me, or some choice sessions that are offered maybe after school. I was on a call today with some principals. We offer lunch and learns, and 15 of them chose to show up to engage in learning that they weren't required to. I was in a session right after school with a small cohort of teachers who have been engaged in a book study together for 2 years now on building a thinking classroom. They chose to engage in that learning and are choosing to come back to these cycles. And then we've got a strong emphasis on professional learning communities this year. Those are like groups of people who have shared goals that they're working towards. That might be in content cohorts. So each of our curriculum coordinators has a cohort of teachers that they're working with this year. Our special programs teachers will come together for job-alike learning. Our principals come together. And so those are like groups that come together for very specific learning aligned to their role. The biggest learning opportunity that we've had as a system this year that's related to academics is Ignite. Last year, Mike and I held a Goal 4 workshop with you all, and at that point, we had rolled out a system-wide feedback system so that we can constantly monitor our professional learning and respond. And at that point, we had almost 300 responses, and we were in the spring. Today, I can report to you that we have 1,826 responses related to our professional learning, and that's just since the return of staff. And here's what we're hearing from them specific to our Ignite learning. The goal for Ignite this year was to be very curriculum embedded with our professional resources, curriculum resources, again, critical thinking, and our intentional planning practices. We have an 84% positive response rate on what we have taken part in this year so far. I always see the sliver where we didn't meet the needs or somebody has reported a concern about the professional learning, but I do want to highlight that 84% of the people who have responded just to start the year are having a positive experience, and I'll share with you some of the areas we need to grow. Here's a few quotes for you that make us proud that were pulled from the data or self-reported in conversations. These 3 days made me feel more prepared for the school year than I have any other year. And that was our goal, curriculum embedded preparedness. We were able to meet as a whole department and plan. This is from one of our secondary teachers who, quite honestly, we often monitor attendance, and we can see a difference in attendance rates based on levels of teacher role. We have another one that says, finally having learning relevant to special programs was very helpful, from a special education teacher. I don't know who's creating these documents, but it's exactly what we need. I have my whole first unit planned, and that was from an elementary teacher. Just pulled these quotes as a few. I'll be honest, Janet, I think about your voice sometimes. At our last board meeting, I heard you talk about, I want every teacher to feel so strongly about the professional learning they experience, just like we do for kids. We haven't nailed it with 100%, but we're making good progress, and I want to celebrate that. Some of the highlights of the feedback were that there was a positive reception of how we organize people into light groups, embedded with intentional planning and collaboration. There was high engagement and specialized professional learning, and that there was established clarity and consistency across our district. There are big opportunities for growth for us. I'm going to tell you one of the biggest that we all feel as well is that our 3 days was overwhelming. Not only did we have 3 days of academic learning, but we also had safety learning at the same time, campus professional learning, and people are really focused on their classroom, and we didn't give them the time that they really, really need, and we need to find a better balance with that, and you can see that as well. There's a desire for more specialized and more differentiated learning. The logistics created some challenges for us, just spaces when you have large volumes of people and the way to facilitate that learning. And then those last two really are a big challenge for us, timing with returning. Our teachers want to be in their classrooms. They want to be setting up and getting ready for their children. They want to be planning alongside their teams. And in several instances, they had a full day of learning and then meet the teacher that evening. And so we've got to work really hard on our calendaring to make sure that we're more aware and intentionally planning for those. And then, if you know, we rolled out some learning this summer that gave more choice in like a conference style. And for participants who took part, they felt like there was some repetitive learning to us. And so we've got to really work, again, on strategic planning to minimize those experiences. So here's some steps that we're taking to really engage in that continuous improvement. We are building a professional learning action team, and I, along with Tracy Rieger and Christy Chandler, will really be working with a group of people that is diverse in nature and roles and departments to make sure that we're getting stakeholder voice in how we design the learning and how we respond to the feedback that we're getting. This team will help us establish both short and long-term goals for professional learning that will be more broad for long-term, and then annually they'll be super specific on what we're trying to achieve. We want to put consistent practices in place that ensure that if you are leading learning, again, whether it's for teachers, whether it's for our facilities team, whether it's for a group of principals, that we have the same standards in place for what high quality learning is, and that we provide the experiences for those leading the learning that they need to be strong facilitators. The team that we are bringing together will be active informants, which sounded terrible as I heard it coming out of my mouth, to what our academic calendar is, and the arrangement of days to help meet the needs that are laid out for professional learning. So this team will help inform the academic calendar and the professional learning calendar. And bottom line, they'll be key leaders in ensuring that each and every one of our employees experiences high quality professional learning, just like we want the exceptional learning to be for our students. That is what we wanted to share with you about our plans this year for for professional learning related to our academic goals, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions from the board for Gabby? Chris?
I think the work that you all do is really important, right? I mean, we know that there's part of education that's the science, and there's a large part of it that's an art, right? And I think the work that we're doing with professional learning like really helps to bring those two things together. I think this work is really important. I think a lot of the feedback that you presented is also feedback that I've heard as well. And I think the only thing that I heard on the improvement side actually was, hey, I really wish maybe we had an extra day to be in the classroom, right? And so I think you heard that. And so maybe I just have one question. You said this is really focused on sort of the academic side of the house. Can you just bring it to life a little bit with an example of, hey, here's something from an academic point of view that we were really trying to drive home at Ignite, like just an example or two?
Yeah, now I'll get really excited. We've talked over the last year about our emphasis on critical thinking. But when we elevated that last year as the focus area for us with our competencies, we were building out rubrics, and we were working to define what we meant by critical thinking. And so, yes, that brought lots of stakeholders together, but it did not get in front of each and every one of our teachers. And so if we really want to minimize variability across our system for our students, we've got to have an aligned understanding of what we mean when we say critical thinking. What does it mean for a teacher to design experiences that create a learning environment where students are engaging in critical thinking? And so all of our principals, well, not every single principal, but our principal leaders, our assistant principals, our coaches, and our team came together and created an experience where our teachers, when they came to learning, really had to dive in and think critically themselves, and then look at the experience they had alongside our critical thinking rubric as we have it defined. So that's one I'm really proud of. We also have an emphasis on assessment for learning, and so all of our teachers went through a medical diagnosis scenario to really think about how even when we go to the doctor, there is a process for assessing our needs, and so we applied that to teaching and learning as well.
Maybe last question, is there anything you need from us, right, to continue this moving forward and to continue the journey, right? Do you need anything from us that you're not getting that you can think of at the moment?
Not that I'm not getting.
Okay.
Your voices are crazy important. Like I hear Miss Lee often based on your reflection on the beginning of the year. That's a compliment. Hear that voice often. And then I also just want to encourage you to take part. We are going to keep getting better, but some exceptional things are happening as it relates to adult learning, and I would love for you all to be a part of that. And I can work on communicating those experiences.
Erin?
Yeah, just a comment, a quick question. Thanks for bringing this to us. I think it's just as important to hear about the academic outcomes that you normally bring us, but it's also important to see how we're getting there, and that's with our professional learning of our teachers. And I think that I was in Belton just a short bit of time, and that's been several years ago, and I think the professional learning has continuously gotten better. My question is, have you considered or ever looked at what are other districts that are doing, that they're offering, organizing, structuring their professional learning? Maybe there's some other ideas out there that could help support, or just other ideas out there. I mean, I know we want to tailor what we need to our teachers and our staff and our professional learning goals, but, and don't hear me asking you to go do that, but have y'all looked at other districts and what they're doing in regards to professional learning?
Sure, and we do want to keep growing and connecting with more. The Learning Forward network that I mentioned puts on a phenomenal conference that you get to come together with many districts that are really focused on building out exceptional professional learning. So that's a network we're a part of. But yes, we have network school districts that we are learning from. I'll give you an example of one. We're part of the Future Ready Superintendent Leadership Network. And so we get to go and visit other districts and learn about the practices that they're putting in place. And there has been quite a bit of inspiration that has come from that related to experience-based learning for adults as well. But we are constantly in pursuit of other districts to learn from to get better.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Anyone else? Thank you, Gabby.
Yeah, just real quick for Gabby, it's easy to put up on a screen the things we're super proud of and the great feedback and the nice quotes. But I appreciate modeling continuous improvement and being okay, also showing that we had feedback that we want to get better. And so I just appreciate, Gabby, that you shared that as well with our board and with our community. It's not all perfect, but we want to get better each and every day, and I appreciate that.
Okay, next item is the 2022 Bond Projects Report. Dr. Golden?
Yes, so Mike Morgan, our Deputy Superintendent, is coming to the podium to give you an update. We are really kind of headed into the home stretch on our 2022 bond projects, and Mike's going to give you a quick update on where we are.
We are. I'm super excited to give this report tonight, and we are entering our 5th week of school, and hundreds of kids have been in the new spaces throughout our bond project. So I'll start with the timeline. It's nice. Remember, when we finish a project, it turns to green on our timeline, so we only have a few that are still not complete. Highlights of those, and I'll kind of hit them a little bit more in the individual project updates, but there are some of the renovation areas at Belton High School that we are either finishing this week or we will finish in the coming weeks, and I'll hit a little more on that in a second. And then the Delta program facility, which we're still anticipating as an opening for the spring semester in January. Financial update, we will be able to give a more comprehensive financial update as we get closer to close out of the various projects. But to date, I did want to bring you some knowns that we have. So through 8/31, we know that at a minimum we'll be receiving buyout savings of about $700,000 or more at Burrell Elementary and about $1.75 million or $1,750,000 at Hubbard Branch. And if you take that with some of the GMP reductions we brought in May for action, right now we're looking at about $3,465,000 coming back out of the GMPs. I say that we won't know final numbers until we finish the construction renovation projects at Belton High, Southwest, and Lake Belton. But also, there's a lot of contracts for soft costs out there. So if we had an open PO with the vendor to provide materials testing for $50,000, and there's a lot of those smaller soft cost contracts and FF&E contracts that once the projects are completely done and we close out, we'll see some savings back off of those as well. So as we get closer to bringing you closeouts for action, we'll also have very definite and detailed pricing. But right now, we can expect around $3.5 million to come back. We expect that number will grow as we get closer to close out. James L. Burrell Elementary, I am happy to report after the summer and the design team and multiple entities working really hard, it appears that the vast majority of those HVAC system issues that we were having, particularly around humidity in the classrooms and in parts of the campus, have been solved. And I believe the only outstanding item at Burrell Elementary before we can close out is some digital graphics to be hung in the makerspace area there. So we're really excited about getting really, really close to closing that project out. Hubbard Branch Elementary, this is the first pictures that we've been able to bring with kind of classrooms in full swing. We're really down to a couple of only a couple of items there. There are some digital graphics that still need to be hung in the library and foyer, and then we just have to finish the commissioning of all the HVAC equipment, and we'll be ready for closeout on that project as well. BHS additions and renovations. So this is one where we're in various stages. In the new CTE edition and in the band hall, students have been in the band hall since the summer, and in the new CTE edition since the first week of school. Although we weren't fully ready, we got the kitchen set up last week finally, and there's a beautiful picture of the commercial kitchen there to the right. We did have the band hall's been in use since July, but we have had some issues there with really two things. The instrument storage that came in was not the right scope, and it also had different colors. So that's going to have to be replaced by the vendor. And then the permanent sound doors that separate the main rehearsal space from the ensemble rooms is what we're still waiting for that project to be completely finished. The CTE renovation that will have the classroom space will be ready this week and next week for teachers and students to move in. The two shops will be done within the next several weeks, and then the Black Box Theater is expected to be finished by mid-October. And there you can see one of the new CTE classrooms. That's one of our audio-visual classrooms of Mr. Fitzwater, and then on the left is the outdoor dining area that's adjacent to the new culinary arts kitchen and to our cafeteria at the campus. Lake Belton Middle School additions are almost complete. There are a few outstanding issues in the band hall. We need some additional acoustical spray on the ceiling above the drop tiles that you see there to the right to absorb a little more sound. There's a lighting issue. The lights they tend to pocket a little. Our design team has come up with a solution, and we'll have a lighting solution fixed for those. And then they had the same instrument storage that Belton High School had, where the layout that came in was slightly different than what our directors had wanted, and our design team and the provider or the distributor is working on solving that problem for us as well. Southwest Elementary, we are down to finishing up some playground equipment in the area to the south of the new gymnasium, removing the temporary gym that's been there on the corner of Saunders since we started construction. A few punch list items, and then some HVAC commissioning, and we'll be ready to close out the Southwest Elementary edition. The ag facility in Delta, so that you can see there the picture to the center and to the left is the ag facility. We have received our certificate of occupancy, and that space is able to be used now. The Delta facility, we are awaiting the foundation to be poured, and then the metal building is ready to go. So as soon as the foundation's poured, they'll start the erection of the metal building there, and work should proceed very quickly at that point. And then finally, our safety and security items, we're down to the final item, and that is to finish up the access control. We've had a couple of delays at some of the campuses, so some campuses are fully operational, some campuses are not. Really, from a safety standpoint, it hasn't impacted us. What it has impacted is our plan to take up exterior master and exterior door keys and replace those with keyless access cards. So when we have all campuses ready to go, that'll be something that we'll work with our construction team and our technology team and our campuses to put that process in place. But that's the only outstanding item. We did get completion of all of our safety vestibules. I got notice today that all the punch list items were done, and we're going to start inspections with the city of Belton and Temple on those tomorrow. Finally, just everything except for the black box and Delta should be close to being closed out by our next update. Really excited to see all the different spaces and to see kids get to enjoy those spaces as we move into the 24-25 school year. Any
questions,
questions or
Mike?
discussion? I hope that y'all, as you visit campuses, get to see some of these spaces, and hopefully we can find some time to be deliberate and go see them. But we've gotten really good feedback. They're beautiful, and the kids and staff really seem to enjoy them.
Chris?
Yeah. I had the opportunity to see the Lake Belton Middle School band edition just before school started. So they were coming out of their summer practices, and those kids were so excited. I did see the lighting issues that you were talking about, so thank you for working on that. But those kids were beyond grateful for really a long overdue, I think, need for that program. When you mentioned about $3.5 million in GMP savings. So are we seeing any increases anywhere that those might offset, or do you think we might have, $3.5 million left at the end? And if so, what are our options for that?
That's a great question. So on the non-construction side, we had some money set aside for land purchase. We had some money set aside for a pretty extensive HVAC and MEP and capital renewal program, about $8.5 million of that. So about $5 million of that went into the major renovation. So we did extensive air conditioning and HVAC systems replacement at Belton High School and at Southwest Elementary and at Lake Belton Middle School in the existing portions of the building. So the hope would be, and we will go through a process and identify kind of where we are from a needs basis, that as much of that money where we were initially over could go back into those capital improvements and major maintenance projects or into some future land purchases.
Aaron, you have a question? Okay.
I would like to, and Chris pointed out about the band hall at Lake Belton Middle School, and sometimes I forget to point this out as well. There's a very robust orchestra program at that campus, and since its inception, they basically had a rehearsal space that was a regular classroom, and then the classroom next to it is where their instrument storage was. The existing band hall that was at Lake Belton has been converted to an orchestra rehearsal studio, and it's the feedback on that has been really incredible as well. So that's a really big, one of our bigger orchestra programs in the district, and to get them in a rehearsal space that's more suited for their needs, I think is really one of the benefits of the bond.
Thank you, Mike. I guess you're going to stay up there, right, Dr. Golden?
Yeah, and just a quick thank you to Mike and Steve. At a time where a lot of school districts, even though they had gone out for bonds, the unprecedented inflation really caught some school districts off guard and had to go out for second bonds to complete the projects that were originally approved by the voters. And so I'm really proud of the work that Mike and Steve are doing and our partners to really stretch every dollar, but also create facilities that, we're being kind of, Chris made the comment, I just have to tell you, I was in the gym when our students at Southwest walked into a facility when only a few years prior, they had no air conditioning in their gym for all those years. And so to see their faces and to see what's happening and to hear the thanks and gratitude of our staff, I just want a quick thank you to our community for supporting that work. And yes, Mike is staying up there. So Mike is also here this evening to provide a report on where we are with our conversation and research around cell phones and the conversation around cell phones in our classrooms. And so, Mike, we're going to kick it back to you.
Very good. Thank you. It's my pleasure, Board and Dr. Golden, to be able to talk to you about our furthering efforts. We've been busy. So over the last 6 weeks, we have had extensive input opportunities from our stakeholders. As I total it up and as I look, it looks like with our surveys and our focus groups and our listening sessions and our principal discussion, we've had about 2,396 opportunities for people to provide input to us into this discussion. And so some of the things that will be coming up tonight, I'm going to give you a quick recap or a quick where we're at on our input sessions. And then we're going to have really 3 very important feedback opportunities over the next several weeks, and then come back. Our plan is to come back to you on the 21st of October with some cell phone guidelines updates that we're going to recommend based on the input and the feedback that we receive. But we want to work with our assistant principals. They are the boots on the ground that will support our teachers and our students in implementation of any type of effective cell phone policy. So we do want to talk to our assistant principals coming up on the 25th. We do want to have one more parent feedback opportunity. So as we're closer to making some recommendations, we want to give some ideas to our parents and let them give us final feedback. And then we want to spend some deliberate time with our principals on 10-8 and go through implications and a final plan with our principals before we bring it back to you. To do any plan well, and this is something we heard loud and clear from our teachers, we need to take time. We need to be explicit about what the expectations are going to be. We need to be clear on communication of how we're going to get it done, and we need to take the time to create buy-in from our staff, students, and community for any type of change in a cell phone plan. So we'll take the months of November and December for any changes that are made. We'll study policy to see if there's any policy considerations or handbook considerations that need to be put in place. And then our goal would be any changes to cell phone guidelines be implemented on January 8th when students return from the fall semester. A summary of teacher, parent, and student input. Really, we saw, regardless of which group we talked to, we saw some similar themes and some similarities throughout. A significant, as we reported last month, a significant percentage of our teachers and parents are concerned about the implications of cell phones in classrooms. And we also learned by talking with all stakeholders that our current expectations aren't consistently enforced. So really, the things that came out throughout this process was we really want to have thoughtful guidelines that do account for varying factors. What does it look like for a kindergartner, a first grader, or second grader versus a junior or senior in high school? We want to have clear communications of expectations, consistent reinforcement of expectations, and consistent consequences. Those are themes that we heard throughout. So we did bring teachers together. We had 2 separate teacher focus groups, and we had around 30 teachers that gave up an evening of their time to come talk with us. We talked a little bit more around cell phone strategy, and the strategies that came out of those discussions were very similar to some of the ideas that came from our parent and from our teacher initial surveys. So I won't go into a lot of detail around those. But we did spend a lot of time talking to our teachers about, for this to work well, what does support look like? What does teacher-to-teacher support look like? What does campus administrator to teacher support look like? And what does district administration to campus support look like? And a few things that came out of there is that collaboration is essential, that we need consistency in expectations and consequences, and we need clear and consistent communication. And those were 3 of the things that we heard loud and clear from our teacher group. And then the final thing we talked to them about, what are some potential barriers that you've seen, to do to update guidelines, to redraw or to restate expectations and do that well. And once again, it came back to consistency. It came back to what can we do to create the buy-in necessary? What can we do to alleviate parent and student concerns? And then any type of logistical challenges or cost of potential solutions for things that they brought up during that discussion. So then we went out to all of our secondary campuses. We had 8 different student listening sessions. We hit our 4 middle schools. We hit our 2 comprehensive high schools, New Tech at Wasco and DAP, and talked to those students as well. And so the student responses kind of highlight a complex relationship around cell phone use. On one hand, teenagers like their cell phones, and that we heard that from their feedback. A lot of the students felt like current cell phone policies are fine, and but they did acknowledge that challenges exist. Students did seem very open to options where solutions that promote responsible use while allowing for individual needs, but also can eliminate some distractions in the classroom. So what did we learn from our students? We talked about the good and the bad things around cell phones. They like the idea of being able to communicate with their parents, with their friends. Obviously, there's an entertainment element to it. And then they also like the reassurance that if an unsafe situation did occur, that they can let their parents know how they are. They did point out some of the negatives around distractions, especially during instructional time, get disconnected from learning, and then some of the teasing and harassment that is a result of having cell phones so prevalent. We talked to them about the cell phone expectations work. Some students, like I mentioned earlier, felt the current rules are fine. Others talked about freedom at certain times of the day, like at lunch or in passing periods or after they completed their work. Some talked about emergency access and inconsistent enforcement as well. We did talk to them kind of about the idea of consistency and buy-in. How can we make sure everyone's on the same page? And so that they had some of the same thoughts that our teachers had actually. Positive reinforcement, clear consequences for rule violations, peer recognition and accountability, recognizing different needs, and then also addressing other root causes of why would kids might be on their phone in the first place. I thought that was interesting that students brought that up. And then finally, the last thing that we learned from our students, we said, what else should we know about cell phones at school? There were some themes that developed, were discussions around cyberbullying, online harassment, some things about anxiety and the pressure to constantly feel like you have to check your phone, balancing phone use with face-to-face interactions, and then also a balance of being able to use phones for technology-focused classes and curriculum as well. And finally, we met with our principals, and we went through a series of questions. But as we looked through the themes of those questions, really some of the themes that emerged were the same as we're seeing. Principals also feel like consistency is going to be a key factor, consistency throughout the district, consistency from classroom to classroom and how that looks. With having all of our principals together, from our pre-K principal all the way to our high school principals, the idea of flexibility and making sure that the expectations are appropriate for each grade level and how that looks, and then clear and consistent communication to parents, staffs, and community. All in all, as we've worked through this process, we really want to bring recommendations to you for your input and for your voice. That not only address the needs to minimize cell phones' impact, but also balances that with families and students' ability that if a safety condition arises, that they can still communicate with their family. I would open that up for discussion.
Suzanne?
I just have a comment. The one word I continue to hear throughout your report was consistency. Whatever we decide to do as a district, we need to be consistent about it. And the thing that I'm really concerned about is, what about checks and balances? How are we going to check and make sure that we are being consistent across whatever campuses we implement this at, whether that be, middle school up to high school or whatever the grade levels are. So just making sure that whatever we do, we are consistent with it. Because that's a strong word throughout your entire report, consistency.
It was probably the major theme that we heard.
Just real quick, one of the things I think that's so valuable through just this whole conversation is allowing teenagers to have a thought experiment about why there could be a problem, like making them stop and think about the actual situation, why it could be causing a problem for others and for them, and making them brainstorm solutions, I think, is such a valuable thing that we're having them do. So I applaud that we've included them. It's not just a top-down. They get to be a part of it and think about it.
Those were some really interesting conversations, too. I'm glad that we were able to do that. And we heard a lot of different viewpoints when we talked to about 200 secondary students about this topic.
Mike, I just want to thank you for all your hard work. It's obviously a lot of effort has gone into this, and to echo what Suzanne said about consistency, also communication. And I know there's a lot of data that's been collected. You said over 2,300 data points at least, or people or interactions. A lot of time, and then meeting with APs next. I mean, our role is to support teachers, to give our students education in the classroom to prepare for graduation. And if cell phones are an issue, then it needs to be addressed. And that's why we're doing this right now. I sat in on one of those listening sessions, and I heard some very unique situations about students I didn't know about. And I thought, well, this is really good. I'm glad we're not just making a quick U-turn, a knee-jerk reaction decision without listening to everyone, teachers, students, parents. Because if we had done that, then there were some students that actually could have been put at risk. So while a lot of times we see something, we want to change it right away, I think the wisdom is certainly to wait until January 8th, study this very well, hear every stakeholder in our community, and put together a very well-formed plan have checks and balances from our parents. And then two, one of the things that really stood out when I was at the listening session with Dr. Golden was one of the teachers spoke very loudly about the communication plan and just saying, like, you can't just roll this out overnight or over a week or even a month because parents are busy and a lot of them are going to miss that. It's going to take a long time to get this communication plan out if you want it to have 100% of the students to abide by it and the parents to understand the policy itself. So thank you for all the hard work you guys have done.
Thank you.
I just want to add on what Janet said about the students' thoughts. I was really impressed with much of what they said, and just thank y'all for including them, because we can even see alignment with what our kids are saying, even with our parents and our teachers. So I thought that was really great that y'all included them. I'll just put my 2 cents in about the consistent. But what are we consistent with? Are we consistent with the expectations, but not the consequences? Because we've got to be consistent with both. And I think to the point about the communication is parents, teachers, staff, whoever is involved with this, is we've got to have easy access to wherever these expectations and these consequences are. Whether if it's a one-pager right on the front page of because I know there may be some flexibility. I know that was even said where one middle school may do it different than another middle school. But whatever it is, parents have to be able to have easy access. They don't want to go through a 100-page handbook. They want to see it. They want to get to it right there and see what are the expectations and then what are the consequences. Because I think even to your point, that's the checks and balances. So thanks for bringing this. I'm excited about what could or will happen in January. So appreciate and applaud y'all for the work.
Chris?
All right, I mean, I'm going to drive it home.
All right, Chris.
Okay.
Consistency. I don't even like this middle school is going to do it one way and this middle school is going to, that's not consistent for me, right? And I'll say communication. Like whatever the end state is, right, has got to be communicated, and it's got to be communicated before the holidays, right? Yeah, I don't know that we could say it enough. And Jan and I just chatted a second ago. I don't know how we intend to roll this out, to the parents and students, but man, if it looked like a cell phone policy addendum to the student handbook that required some signatures on it, that'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah, those are things we're talking about is kind of to Aaron's point where it's not somewhere within 100 pages, but we've already pushed out handbooks, so it needing to be an addendum to that, and then clear, signatures that we've received and good communication on expectations way in advance.
Mike, you said one of your slides was looking at the timeline for everything, and then there's another slide that talked about whether a board policy change or adoption would be necessary. Do you or Dr. Golden, do you, either one of you see that board action would be necessary other than a policy? Is board action going to be necessary in anything? Is this something that's going to be implemented administratively?
I do think we might want to consider looking at our local policy.
Right.
I mean, I certainly think that there could be some recommendations that we might have to just align expectations and have that clear in policy as well as in handbook. So we'd be bringing a recommendation
like
to the committee.
We did BIC local where we had our forms attached to the policy.
Mm-hmm.
So if we do have some regulations, and those regulations could be attached to that policy,
Yes.
something along those lines?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right. So if the timeline is notify parents prior to the holidays, which I assume, Chris, you would mean prior to the Christmas break, right?
Potentially prior to buying a kid a new cell phone. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Right. So you're going to bring us, if I understood correctly, bring us recommendations in October? Okay. All right, sounds good. Oh, I had one other question. I know we involved parents, we involved teachers, and we involved students. Have you had discussions with all of your administrative staff, all of your assistant principals and principals about this? And what?
We've spent time with our principals at our last leadership team meeting.
Right.
And we have time with assistant principals on the 25th of this month.
Okay. All right. Nothing else? Okay.
Thank you.
Going on, thank you, Mike. Going on to reports, item D, PEIMS audit report. Dr. Golden?
Yes, so thank you, Shad, for coming forward. If you will remember in our conversations in the spring regarding budget, one of the strategies, along with looking for ways to reduce the budget and the shortfall of that budget, we also wanted to do a PEIMS audit in order to look at, as we know, how we code students, coding of attendance. There's lots of implications with PEIMS data. And so we wanted to make sure that our systems were in good shape and we were maximizing every opportunity we could, because the appropriateness of that coding impacts weighted funding, as well as, again, things like attendance. So we did an audit with an outside organization, and so Shad and Gabby are here this evening, and we want to present some of those findings so you know what came out of that and what our next steps are.
All right, thank you very much. So I want to start by talking about the purpose of our audit. The purpose was to report on the findings for a review conducted on our public education information management system. I know we always throw around terms like PEIMS and CCMR, but I wanted to make sure you guys understood, what all those really mean. And the response plans to go with that. We're going to talk about the why. So we did this so we could conduct a comprehensive evaluation of our current systems and practices related to PEIMS, because those affect, like Dr. Golden said, accountability, funding, compliance, special programs, staffing. All of those are tied to our PEIMS numbers. So here's a little bit about the process. So a lot of work went on behind the scenes for this, but our auditors, they facilitated a project information sharing and data gathering session with district administrators to help us establish the context for a root cause analysis. And then next, they collected and analyzed data provided by Belton ISD as well as information on the TEA website. They conducted 12 different individual interviews and 4 focus group meetings with department administrators, staff, principals, and support personnel. They conducted a review of random student career plans and student IEPs to evaluate academic rigor and compliance. And then lastly, they synthesized all those findings and then provided reports to us so we could go back and come up with plans on how we want to fix some of the findings that they found. Gabby's going to come up and talk a little bit about the key findings.
All right, so we have, through this process, got our report and we're able to pull out some of the big areas within the report that will drive our future action. And these are not in any particular order right now. They were just the big findings from it, and then we've prioritized. So first of all, just a need to enhance our systems for data collection and the workflows that will improve some efficiencies. There's potential impact within our coding to our CTE in particular and our bilingual education allotment funds. And those currently are showing that they are lagging behind our peer districts. So there's something in there that we've really got to address related to our PEIMS coding for CTE and bilingual education. There were challenges that were uncovered with our free and reduced lunch application processing system for families. We have a need for a growth in our industry-based certifications. You all know we are very proud of how we've grown over the last couple of years in the number of students who are acquiring those IBCs, and we want to still commit to growth, and that was an area of need identified. There was a lack of clarity in the documentation procedures for PEIMS data management. So just the process flows were not clear in documentation. And then there's a gap in the professional learning needed for the individuals who are most responsible for the inputting of that data at the student level. So some of the immediate needs, and you'll see an overlap in some of the findings related to our actions. Currently, We don't have a designated lead who really owns the learning for the campus-based professional or personnel who are responsible for that data input. Lots of people support them. They get quite a bit of support, but there's not a key leader that organizes that all and puts like a year at a glance in place for those. And so our team is working to identify exactly who that would be. As you see, even just with the CTE and the bilingual allotments, those are two different departments who have different unique needs. And so we need to work towards, here's that word again, consistency tonight, really cross-departmental communication to put some consistency guidelines in place for the coding of all of our students. And that will ease implementation challenges for the personnel doing that as well. The third thing was just a strengthening of our collaboration between our career readiness CTE department and our PEIMS department. They've got to be walking side by side to make sure that every student and every course is coded correctly, and action is already in place around that. And then improvement to the process for free and reduced lunch applications. You have probably seen some of those improvements already. We did a district-wide blast via email. When you go to our site, a signal pops up. We have some social media out that really helps families understand that this is not just about free lunch. Oftentimes families won't apply because they don't think that they're eligible. And there are far more benefits, including financial support in college, uniform support for access within fine arts and athletics, reduced cost on AP testing, and so we've started some campaigning and improvement of those processes to make sure our families have access to the supports they need. Related to future planning, those that we just talked about are immediate things that we are working on. We're going to need to engage in more strategic work that will impact our actions over time in 4 broad categories. One in particular is our off period. We currently allow students to take off periods, and with those off periods, some limitations are naturally put on program expansion, in particular in the areas of CTE, where we may offer some practicum, instruction, and then extended hours. And so we'll have to have conversations about the impact of our off periods on growth for program offerings. We talked about this earlier this evening, and the conversation continues in our report. We need to expand the offerings for our students in the middle school related to CTE. We want to do that. That's a long-term goal for us and short-term, and we can see the impact in our funding, and it was reflected in the report. We also discussed this evening the need to improve advising for students, in particular in those areas of programs of study we offer. And I can assure you that Denise Ayers and our entire counseling department are working very closely to strengthen that as we speak. And then over time, we want to really think about how our staffing structures that are currently in place support the needs of students related to CTE and course offerings, but also to those individuals who are responsible for managing the data and input. We want to provide clarity for them in their roles and make sure that the right supports are in place for them to be successful in those roles. So those are the future planning implications for us. We want to take the opportunity right now between Shad and I to answer any questions you all have related to the PEIMS report, CTE.
I have one. On the free and reduced lunch applications, can you go into a little bit more detail about how you would increase and strengthen the communication? Because as you mentioned, there's a lot of opportunity there for our students.
Yes, so I'll share with you one of the findings that we have that I think will illustrate your question very well. The application process is not easy just in general. There's lots of technicalities within it. And oftentimes our families who are in higher poverty situations have limited access. What we found, our application is all digital right now, and what we found is that the directions that we were providing for the application didn't necessarily align to once families got into the application. So that was an immediate, I apologize. We can take action on that right now, simplifying our language and making sure that the words that we say and the directions we give you actually align with the application. The other thing was when we pulled the directions that we gave, there were lots of benefits listed that were for benefits to Belton ISD or a district, and that's true. We do have benefits for families applying, but what we weren't doing a good job of is communicating the benefits to the family beyond just the lunch I get.
I have to tell you, I did not know that it included help for uniforms, sports uniforms being, I had no idea. So you just taught me that.
Yeah,
So that's amazing.
And I'll tell you, there's not like a funding source within it, right? But we can't, if we don't have documented that a student is economically disadvantaged, then we can't help support eliminating barriers for them. And so what we feel like is happening as a result of the challenges in the application is that we didn't have a true capturing of the students in our system who are economically disadvantaged.
Suzanne?
Yes. Under future planning needs, can you give an example of what CTE advising improvement, just some examples of what that would look like?
Sure. So I'll give an example. I had lunch with a young lady who said she wants to go off and become an engineer. That's her life. And I said, are you in our engineering program of study? And she wasn't aware that we had one. That's one student. And this was 2 years ago, Mr. Floor, but I reacted the same way. I almost fell out of my chair. In 8th grade, we currently do our career inventory with students, and so we want our counselors and our campus staff to be able to sit down and have conversations with students about related to your career interests. Here are the course offerings that we have for you, and then to secure in their selection process to make sure that they are accessing those courses, as well as having transition experiences that get them excited about, and they just can't imagine the future without being a part of those programs.
Anyone else? Chris?
Can you just refresh my memory on how often we submit the PEIMS data? This is a...
Well, we submit it several times a year. We have a fall submission and then a summer submission.
Okay. And then it sounds like on each campus has a data entry responsibility, right, as I think what I heard. And I think that might actually be new information for me. For some reason, I thought it all came from the central office. But, and so with the data coming in from each campus, I mean, what are the quality checks that we have today, right? I mean, I know we've learned some lessons through the audit, right? But like, what are the quality checks that we have right now?
So once all the campuses that go through and they submit all of their information, then it comes back to us, and then people within my department, people within her department, we go through there and we validate the data, make sure that everything looks correct, and then we submit it, and then if there's any errors that kick back, then we go in and try to correct those and then resubmit it.
Yeah, okay. And then, as I understand it, there's a new or a pilot PEIMS system being, I don't know, piloted, right? I'm not hearing great things, right? So can you share with us a little bit about what you understand about the new system, what you're hearing about the new system, and potentially what the implications of the issues are?
So
I know that's a lot that I just dropped right there, but.
Yes, and Shad probably can share much more than I can, but I will tell you, so this started to bubble up a couple of weeks ago, and so we jumped on 2 calls. One was led by a school district that was one of the, I believe there were 300 districts that participated in a pilot program. And this particular district had some pretty significant concerns with the new system, and had been communicating that with the Texas Education Agency. And so we jumped on that call, as well as we got on a call with some other staff members, one who was with the Texas Education Agency working on this project. And so there are definitely concerns, because errors in this system will impact everything. It has the potential of impacting accountability, financial implications, so lots of implications with the system. It's complicated, so that's probably why Shad had that look on his face, because we don't all use the same systems across the state. We use Skyward, for example. Not all districts use Skyward, and so it seems like a little bit of the challenge also depends on which system you're using. Is that fair, Shad?
That is correct,
He's
yes.
not doing this
No,
yet, and so.
everything she said so far is 100% correct.
So, listened in on enough meetings with superintendents, have seen letters that have been sent to the commissioner that there definitely are concerns, that there are a lot of errors potentially that can happen, and so we're watching this roll out very cautiously. Shad, what would you add?
I would say that, us not being a part of the pilot program, it's hard for us to know all of the troubles that other people are having. We just know by listening to all the other people who are in the pilot program how many issues they're having and the issues they're seeing with their data.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay.
Just a comment. This has been really just eye-opening and enlightening. In my 3+ years, we've not really had this kind of discussion or the implication about PEIMS. And so I know I'm jumping ahead, but I know when we talk about board requests for new information reports, I think this would be a good one to possibly come back and, I'm not saying when, but it would be great to just get an update on what y'all need to do.
Yeah, I think an update on our improvement efforts absolutely would be a really good thing. It's not like when you ever say the word audit, anybody gets really excited. However, it was super important that we be willing to, we go through so many financial audits. It was important for us to audit processes and systems because this does impact so much of our district. Gabby was talking about our economically disadvantaged student numbers. That data alone helps indicate which are your peer districts that you're compared to, and through the state accountability system are really, really compared against that help determine some of your ratings. And so to not have that data accurately reflect your student population potentially puts you in with a peer group of schools and districts that are not really truly your peer group. So again, has lots of implications.
Just one quick question that just kind of I thought about. Does this have anything to do with also how we code transfer students? And the reason I ask, and I don't know if this has any implication, but a friend of mine whose student was zoned for one campus, they transferred to another campus. So the end of the year, they never got any calls about they needed to redo their transfer. And when she called certain transfer school, she said, well, but you're coded for this such and such school, but where she lives, she is not. And so does that have any sort of, does that also fall into this kind of PEIMS? I don't even know if I asked any of that right, but does that have any sort of implication?
That I feel like we could respond clearly with. Not necessarily PEIMS, but the records processing, which does impact PEIMS.
Okay.
So if our records for address and enrollment zones are not accurate or could be magical timing when we have rollover, it could impact whether or not she got the call that she needed to get. And so it does go back to the consistency guidelines and making sure that we have strong procedures and processes in place at the data entry point.
Thank you, guys. All right, Superintendent's report. Dr. Golan?
Yes, thank you very much. So we've been busy since the last board meeting, and so you're going to see on some of these slides, again, just some highlights from over the last couple of weeks. And, I went quickly, past our vision. We always start it with empowering each and every learner to pursue their dreams and enrich their communities. And I think our recognitions this evening really demonstrates that. I don't know about you, but the young lady who spoke as a member of our ROTC program, I think there were some people in the audience who thought perhaps she was an instructor and did not realize she was one of our students. And so again, the leadership, the communication skills that they gain through these experiences are just incredible. And so I'm super excited to highlight some of the work in the last couple of weeks. Wanted to start with, we recognize some of our community partners this evening who have given so much of their time and money to resources our students need. But that work just continues. One of our beliefs that you adopted as a board is the belief around community engagement and how that impacts the educational experiences and enhances the educational experiences of our students. And these are just some images to capture some of that. We see Suzanne up in the top left corner. She participated in one of our listening circles with our PTA, and so really engaging our parents through things like PTA, PTO. We have one of our state representatives there with Chris Floor, enjoying a game, enjoying the coin toss, but being a part of our community and engaging with our students, as well as, I love this picture. That's a picture of a very nice check that was donated by a carpenter to our Belton Education Foundation, which again, that money goes into grants for students and for staff. And then I just love the bottom picture because that's Grandparents' Day. And so really continuing to look for ways to engage our parents, our community, and our grandparents and their children's and grandchildren's school experiences. Along with those experiences, these are just a variety of images that I took as I've been visiting classrooms, was in classrooms today. These just represent a variety of our schools. Been at Chisholm Trail, Lakewood, today was at Southwest, was at Belton High School, and just seeing what our teachers are designing for our students and engaging them in classrooms has really been inspiring for me. I will tell you, I walked out of a classroom today at Southwest Elementary School, and I said, I would put my child, and then I had to stop for a minute because I'm a little bit older, and had to say grandchild, in that classroom. It was incredible. The engagement in that classroom was incredible. It was a master teacher who probably has only been teaching with us a couple of years, but is just doing an amazing job. And so just wanted to share with you some of the things I get to see that I'm blessed to see in my role in classrooms. Along with our students learning, these are just some images of our adults learning. So I think, Aaron, you might have asked the question earlier about, do we go outside of the district for learning? And, you know, Gabby absolutely affirmed that and gave some examples. We also bring great learning in, and you see in some of the images, the top left corner are taken from our recent professional learning communities academies. There is best practice around that collaboration and what happens when we come together and design engaging work, look at student data, are our students growing? And so we have campuses that are going through training regarding PLCs throughout this school year. You also see in the bottom corner, that is, we also are learning from data, and so they're actually doing a plus delta and really studying the data that came out of professional learning so that we get better and better. And then, of course, you see some principals learning, and then Gabby and I had the honor to spend a little bit of time recently on a Saturday with our incredible dual language educators. These are fine, amazing educators who are coming together on a Saturday of their own time, wanting to learn from each other and just get better and better on behalf of our students. And so with that, just want to see if you have any questions. No?
No
Okay.
questions? Thank you, Dr. Golden.
Thank you.
Okay, now moving on to board highlights. This is our opportunity to talk about anything that we've attended in the last month since our last meeting that you want to share with other trustees. Anyone want to start us off? Suzanne?
So, yes, sure. So I attended the PTA listening session, which truly was interesting. I got to sit with parents and reminisce on some of the things that my children did and answer those questions about favorite day of school. And of course, it was always the first day of school, because back then, because, you know, I'm older, got older children, the kid came home from school on that first day and had a stack of forms I had 4 children, so that was 4 stacks. So I absolutely enjoyed that. There's one campus that was not represented there. They are working on their PTO, and so I am talking a lot to them, trying to make sure we get them to the table, because that's such a great collaborative effort, and you can get some great information from just talking to different folks there at the table.
Anyone else?
I'll just mention one thing. This is a little bit more general but specific. I mean, I've had the opportunity to attend some open houses, yes, for my own kids, but it is hard to go in when you're a parent to not look at things and be there also as a board member. But while I was present with my kids and talking, I was also just admiring just other families engaging and coming in, and the parking lots were full. So it was just really great. I love that we still do open houses. Those are just, they're needed. Parents need to get in the door. I know they have to come in an evening because that's when they get off work, but I just applaud our schools for still doing open houses. And South does a really fun thing where you walk the schedule. So every 4 to 6 minutes, the bell rings, and then you go to second period. And you can, now it is a little harder to get some one-on-one time with those teachers, but the teachers will have a little mini presentation so that they can talk about what their class rules are and their expectations. And so it's just really neat. They get a little glimpse into their day, into their schedule, and who their teachers are and what they're learning. And so I just applaud our district for still doing open houses. I hope that is something that never goes away.
Anyone else?
I got to do the open house too, and it was a lot of fun. Football games this time of year are obviously a blast and a highlight. I think just to see the spirit. I know Dr. Gold and I were talking about that a couple games ago or so. And then I got to go to the 9/11 celebration at High Point last week, and that was great. That was really great to see all of the students and so much of the community, a lot of our veterans and people who are still in the military currently, parents, first responders, and just the partnership we have with TPD and Morgan's Point that were there. It was just very well done and glad to be there.
Chris?
All right, I've been riding the yellow taxis to away games, which is all of them. So I'm so happy to be back in dad mode and back to chaperoning and riding the buses. And I'm, so excited to be back because we got such an amazing group of kids, right, that participate on Friday nights, all of them, right? It's not just the kids on the immediate field of play, right? It's the cheerleaders, it's the, Magic Bells or the Silver Spurs, it's the bands, it's everybody that goes along with it. And the boosters that go along with it as well, right? I mean, we've got such an amazing group of parents, and I think everybody is so excited to be back, and you can feel that on the sidelines and on the buses, and it's awesome. We're back, baby. Let's go.
That's awesome.
Anyone else? I think I shared with you guys last month that the City of Temple put together a legislative task force, and we had since our last meeting, we had a dinner, and then we had 2 days of meetings where actually presentations that we listened to from various presenters, and to include Dr. Golden, who came in and gave a presentation to the task force on our legislative priorities, like we discussed here earlier. The nice thing about what the City of Temple is doing is, well, first of all, of course, they invited me here because I'm on the school board, but there was only one other school board trustee, and that was Dan Posey, the president of the Temple Independent School District School Board. But our own David Lee is on there, our mayor, and one of our councilmen, Stephanie O'Mallion's on there. We had a good time talking. So City of Temple is bringing some Belton folks in there, which I was really pleased about that. And I told Tim Davis, I said, this is really good that what you guys are doing here. The City of Temple has done a tremendous job in garnering public funds and what they've done with their infrastructure and planning. And a lot of these presentations were very informative, and we're going to have another meeting, I think, next week I don't think I'm going to be able to attend it because we're going to be at the TASB convention. But I'm looking forward to seeing how those things overlap with what we're doing here. And a lot of things do overlap. A lot of things do involve funding, of course. The other interesting thing about the task force is Temple recognizes that, Belton and Temple are, we're joined at the hip. And a lot of things that affect Temple are going to affect Belton as well. A lot of things that are going to affect the Temple Independent School District are going to affect the Belton Independent School District. So the fact that they're putting this together and involving us as well, I think is going to be nothing but beneficial for us. And then we also had someone come in and talk. I'm trying to think of the name of the entity. Dr. Golden. Moat Casey did that's one of the best presentations I've heard on school finance. The guy is just incredibly knowledgeable about that, right? So as we move forward, maybe next month I'll share some additional highlights about some of the things that we learned about school finance. We even had Dr. Buckley was there and presented some of the things and talked about the first day at the Capitol and how some of the things that happened to him that day were kind of interesting. Hugh Shine was there as well. And I think one evening, the two candidates for District 55 were there. I wasn't there that evening, but I think they were there. And I think, Hillary is here tonight. She was there. I didn't get to visit with her, but I didn't get to visit with the other candidate. But they even invited them there to talk to some of the folks on the task force. So after they narrow down, just like we're doing our legislative priorities, they're going to narrow those down, and then we'll talk about, I'll share that with you and see what things overlap with them that we have on our list. Any questions about that? I think it's a great thing, great opportunity for us. Okay, well, that concludes this evening's reports, and moving on to the consent agenda. Does anyone wish to pull an item for discussion? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented? Mr. Preston, do I have a second? Mr. Norwood, all those in favor, please raise your hand. That passes 7-0. Board requests for new information. Board members, at this time, are there any requests for new information or reports from the administrative team? Aaron, I think you've already kind of made a request, right? Right, update on PEIMS. Right, okay, anyone else? All right, now moving on to public comments. Becca, do we have anyone signed up? No. There being no public comments, moving on to the closed session. The time is now 8:03 p.m. And the board will now go into closed session for student disciplinary matter, Texas Government Code Section 551.082, personnel, Texas Government Code Section 551.074, and consultation with attorney, Texas Government Code Section 551.071. The time is 8:54 PM, and the board will now reconvene in open session. All action items, reports, and consent items for this meeting have been addressed. There being no further business, this meeting is adjourned at 8:54 PM.